Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the adequate notice compliance statement.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the City Clerk's office in the preparation of the Council Annual Meeting Notice dated December 18th, 2023, which was properly distributed and posted per statutory requirements. Please be advised that the fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter.
Excellent, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Boyer?
Here.
Ms. Hamlet?
Here.
Mr. Miniger?
Here.
Mr. Pulowski? Mr. Smallwood?
Here.
Mr. Vartan?
Present.
Council President Allen?
Here. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the explanatory notices regarding hearings, comments, and closed sessions.
A closed session meeting, as authorized by state statute, was announced and held prior to the start of this meeting, and the note items for discussion were listed on the published closed session agenda. Please be advised that council meetings are broadcast live on Comcast Channel 36 and Verizon Channel 30, and rebroadcast on Thursdays and Saturdays on HTTV, on Comcast 36 and Verizon 33. When invited to speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name, your home address, spell your last name, and speak into the podium microphone so that your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever an audience or council member reads from a prepared statement, please give or email a copy to the City Clerk's office at cityclerk@cityofsummit.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. Unless you are using an electronic device to follow the meeting agenda or need it for professional emergency contact purposes, please turn it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes, the regular and closed session meeting minutes of March 5th, 2024?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to reports, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, just a quick question. Did you just approve the regular minutes and the closed session minutes?
Yep,
That was
the regular and closed session minutes of March 5th.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. The first day of the 2024 Summit Farmers Market is Sunday, April 28th. The farmers market is held weekly on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Park and Shop lot on the corner of Woodland and DeForest. View more information about the market at summitdowntown.org. This coming Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m., please join us for the Department of Community Programs Open House at the Community Center. This is an excellent opportunity to learn about current and future programs, events, and initiatives that are hosted by the DCP, and for you to share your ideas. I hope to see you there. Then, next Tuesday, April 9th, is the Public Safety Open House at the Summit Community Center, beginning at 6 p.m. To honor local government week, there will be displays from city departments for viewing before presentations from police and fire at 7 p.m. There will also be an opportunity for questions from the audience. If you can't join us then, the session will be recorded and shared on the city YouTube channel and website. More information on the evening is available at cityofsummit.org. Thank you to everyone who submitted photos for our local government week photo contest, Summit Through Your Eyes. We're thrilled with the response from the community and cannot wait to share the photos you submitted. The winners of the contest will be announced next Monday, April 8th, by email and then displayed at the Public Safety Forum. Yet another reason to come join us. Lastly, residents have asked for updates about the current firehouse property in 7 Cedar Street. The city is diligently evaluating how to best accomplish all of the goals for those properties, including getting highest and best use and also affordable housing for the community. We're getting closer to sharing next steps, and we hope to be able to share those soon. One of the goals for that location is to accommodate affordable housing Our Mount Laurel Committee has had multiple meetings, and we're trying to reschedule our next meeting for an earlier date, as we've already made substantial progress, and we're focused on responsibly closing round 3. We expect that the committee will have recommendations very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I love that we have Local Government Week coming up next week, and there were several photos that were submitted, which is exciting because I don't know if we had any last year, so hopefully it'll get everybody excited to submit more pictures for next round. Summit's annual Earth Day cleanup is on Saturday, April 13th from 9 to 12 p.m. Visit cityofsummit.org to view additional event information, including how to volunteer as a group or obtain community service hours for participating in the cleanup. Thank you to all the environmental groups in Summit, especially the Summit Environmental Commission, the Summit Recycling Advisory Committee for leading this effort this year. And it's always wonderful to see so many young people, families, faith groups, and organizations who work together to make Summit sparkle and make it brighter and cleaner. At the next free market, we will also be having it on Saturday, April 13th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Municipal Transfer Station. It is another way for residents to make a positive environmental impact and share a lot of great items with our neighbors. Thank you to all the volunteers who make these events possible, particularly the many Summit High School students who staff it. For more information on the Summit Free Market, it's available at cityofsummit.org. Also, the City of Summit website gets a free refresh every 4 years as part of its contract with the Civic Plus website provider. While much of the site layout remains the same, the homepage does have some new navigation and content that is organized by the items people search for most often on the site. The goal of the refresh is to keep the city site up to date with industry best practices and more effectively connect citizens with the information they need. These changes will take place tomorrow at noon, and I look forward to the update to hearing what you think about it. So I got a chance to look at it today. It is, like she said, it just feels new, and when you scroll over it, things are alphabetized and easy to find. So I'm excited for everybody to see it. And you noticed that the resolution from the floor, there's a copy up front. So just want to say we are doing a resolution from the floor tonight. Okay. On to presentations. What everybody's been waiting for is the budget. You're up, City Administrator Rogers. Okay. Yep, so this is our 2024 municipal operating budget presentation. Yeah, you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. All right, I'm all set. All right, before I start, I think we should put these
Oh, yes.
for the total budget experience. No, we just got these in the closed session. So.
Thank you, Nicole.
And Mayor, you have this. Okay.
I'm here.
Thank you.
I'm ready.
Just want to make sure you're ready. Not that you can see anything under these things. But anyway, I'm going to take this off here. All right.
Turn it on.
Turn it. All right. And let's see how direction this. Okay, perfect. All right, well, good evening, everyone. First, I want to just, I want to thank the mayor and council for all of your time and effort during this budget process. I know for 4 of you, it was sort of a fire hose of information that you received in your respective committees, as well as the Finance Committee and Capital Projects Committee that had to deal with it a lot in the first few months of this year. So I want to thank you for the time and feedback that we received and helping us put this together, as well as the department heads for all the work you guys have done since back in August, which I'll run through a timeline for the public. Really appreciate everything that we went through. I know it's just a lot of time and effort that goes into this process. And I want to most especially thank our esteemed CFO that's sitting up here. She's a great collaborator. We worked on, I guess, about 5 budgets now, 4 or 5 budgets. And there's just an exhaustive amount of work that goes into this budget document. We tend to do a little bit more than what I'd say 99% of the municipalities do in any given year for their elected officials as well as the public. And that's really why I set out to do this years ago, and I continue to do so. But this presentation will just give you a very broad overview. If you really want to dive into this material, I highly suggest you go on our website. It should be up by tomorrow. I know it will be up by tomorrow. The budget report document, which some of the council has, which is somewhere around here. It's a pretty big budget binder that I give out all the elected officials. So this is just the overview, and then we'll be up to the council to present on. So thank you, everyone. And also I have to thank my staff who does a lot of editing and work on this effort. That's Amy Cairns, Megan Trindell, and Megan Champney. So, and I'll start the presentation. So this is just, I'll give you, this is what we're running through this during this presentation. Timeline goals, giving you the financial, high-level financial outcome, and then getting into, I'll talk a little bit about our tax base, and then how it's impacting our budget in a positive way this year, and then I'll get into just a brief overview of revenues, appropriations, and a little bit about debt, and that really ties into the capital budget discussion. And this is a timeline we start by the end of August. We're instructing the department heads and the chiefs to get into starting their operating capital budgets. We go through this process, and usually we get, Tammy and I get our submissions by the end of October. And then the department heads, they're instructed to go into their committees and talk about, go over just, again, it's a preliminary discussions that they're getting into their operating capital. Then we have our preliminary capital budget presentation in December of every year. And that just gives, an opportunity for the department heads to engage the elected officials and anyone from the public that comes to kind of get a sense of what our budget, our project needs are in the upcoming year. It's sort of, I know some people refer to it as a wish list, but a lot of this is, a lot of what we're presenting are becoming more and more needs because we are deferring a lot of projects. We had to, and I'll get into this a little bit more. But it's becoming more and more a need than it is a want. And then it's January. This is when we really start in earnest with the finance and capital budget committees. Department heads come in before the finance committee, go over their operating budgets. They're still continuing to engage in with the capital projects committee on their respective capital budgets. And then we get the chairs of the finance and capital projects committees together, along with myself and the CFO, and typically it's the community services and community programs directors that are coming in because they have the largest capital budget. And we come up and there's a lot of, every year it's getting harder and harder, and there's a lot of tough decisions that we have to make to decide which projects actually do make this year's capital budget. And then we are at this point, April 2nd, and I'm presenting, and hopefully the council will introduce the budget tonight, and we will start this process. And we have to at least be out there for 20 days
Michael?
before we can.
Your microphone.
Yeah, I think your mic went out.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I might have hit it, but I think the battery's good, or?
Nope, that's on.
There's extra batteries right
Okay.
near your spot, just in case.
That's a good idea. There's extra batteries here? Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so this will be out for 28 days, and May 7th right now is the projected public hearing for this budget. So goals, I'm just going to quickly go through the goals. We have goals. We have in our budget binder, we have goals which list under each respective goal, strategic objectives, some key actions. It's not exhaustive. We just try to list some
Michael.
of them that, again, it's going out. I think it's the battery.
I think, can we use your?
Okay, I'm going to have to use this one. All right. Okay. Better?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. So I'm just going to quickly go through. The first goal is financial and related. Starts with this budget. It's a financial plan. And then our capital budget, that certainly goes to our debt management. And then certainly our main goal is to always to preserve our AAA status with all the credit rating agencies that are out there, the three main ones. Our second goal has to do with just everything everybody's heard of generative AI, and you're seeing more of what we have existing. Our technology platforms are integrating that into their platforms. We're starting to just try to understand just AI in general, like everybody else is, and how it's going to influence municipal service delivery. So we're really trying to just get a better understanding. We will be developing policy around that. The state has taken sort of the governor through an executive order has taken the lead on that, and we were trying to follow some of that as a responsible government and what will guide us in the future And right now, we're just looking at existing platforms and seeing how we can improve workflow, how we can use just all the data that we have and have, sort of the complex systems we have, and how to improve that, our service delivery, and that's the main goal. So it's now our goal, part of our goals. And then next is just where the mayor is started a wellness program, as well as the council is committed to improving the employee sort of benefits, and we're looking at different options on how we can better retain and certainly recruit the best that are out there to work in our organization. So it's sort of just, it's a health, physical, mental goals that we have within this wellness program for both the mayor as well as the council's commitment, what we're doing for employees. Fourth is just look, it's our affordable housing obligations. It's our existing housing that we have for our public here, our senior citizens, and our other residents in town, helping each other. We have certainly our settlement and what we have to do for our third round obligations. We are now still trying to understand, and we still will await what is going to be our obligations for fourth round. So there's a lot around that's with our Mount Laurel subcommittee that was formed earlier this year. And we're working at making sure we are making every effort to accomplish our third round obligations, as well as what we need to prepare for our fourth round. So that's our that's our focus this year. And our fifth goal is really just about public safety and what we're doing in law enforcement, implementing advanced technologies to help us do what we do best, I think, in this community, as well as for our employees and just training efforts. So, and there's just many aspects to safety that are under this goal. And this is our capital budget, what we're doing for our roads, our sidewalks, our playgrounds, our fields. That goes to that goal. And then the next one is about our communication, improving our community engagement with our residents and City Hall. And right now we're looking at new platforms for our community engagement surveys and other types of purposes for which we believe that this new system, and we're evaluating different platforms right now on how we can just better communicate and the interaction between us. And then lastly, it's just, we have a diverse community. We're always trying to, we're creating new cultural events through our community programs department. And there's just a recognition of that. So we have a lot of actions we take during the year, and this sort of just goes to this last goal. And now let's get into what challenges we faced this year. Last year was much greater in the appropriation section. This year, it's still a challenge, and this kind of lays it out. But revenue loss was an issue for us this year, at almost $1.2 million, just with two issues. Well, it's a few different reserves that we were losing, which goes to that $429,000. But the big one was with our settlement agreement with Overlook Hospital. That ended at the end of last year. And so we knew going into this year that was going to be somewhat of a loss, but we also knew that back in 2021, there was a law that was passed around this that they call a community service, and I'll get into this a little more. It's called the community service law. And that will help offset some of this loss. So I'll get into that a little bit later. And then on the appropriation side, we had some just typical salary and wage increases, other expense, which I will go in greater detail later. And then just in our this is a little unusual, general liability workers' comp, seeing an 18% increase this year. This is well above average what we typically see. And then healthcare and pension increases. So this is what we were confronted with in crafting our budget this year. So this is just a broad overview. This is what we're looking at with our municipal budget. When I refer to the general fund, which is going to be the bulk of what I talk about, is going to be around just the general fund municipal budget, and then getting to the capital budget. I'll go into a little bit with the sewer and parking after this slide. And we're looking at a 3.8% increase in our budget. Capital, for the last 2 years, we kept our capital budgets to a minimum around $2 million, which is historically very low. We needed to do it for really debt service reasons. So that gave us a chance, and I'll get into the debt service and how that's helped later in this presentation. But that's why you see it doubling, more than doubling this year. We have a lot of capital project needs. So for the sewer utility, you're seeing operations, and a lot of that is joint meeting. That's what where ultimately our waste goes, and it is multiple municipalities that belong to the joint meeting. There was, I believe, about 12% increase there, a few $100,000. That's really the large bulk of this, and then there's some debt service that increased by 100, so that's the bulk of the increase there with those two items. Capital, it's down from last year, and I'll explain a little bit later on what happened there. And then with parking, that's again, we're getting hit with a lot of higher transaction fees. More use of it creates more transaction fees, so there's an increase in our budget for that reason. And then some capital costs that we're funding through the operating budget. So this is just the overall financial total for all three. The municipal budget, your taxes fund the municipal budget. The sewer and parking are user fee based. But this is the overall, just to give you a sense. It's a little under 7%. So for the general fund, which I'll be talking about for the rest of the presentation, this is just top two bullet points are revenue based. So your non-tax revenue, your local revenue, your enterprise funds, contributions, and grants that make up that number. Slightly up. There was a lot of loss in those, but we're still up slightly, 26,000. And then our municipal tax, this is your levy, and this is what we have to raise to balance our budget. So this gets done through your tax rate. And I'll go into it. And I'm showing 5% here, but it's not nearly as bad, and I'll explain why in a few slides. And then you have your, we get into our salary and wage and department. That's your municipal operations, which I showed in the previous slide. And then our debt, which is a big deal. Last year, we were looking at $1 million increase. This year, it's down 18,000. And that really has a lot to do with certainly scheduled debt that was going down, but holding our existing, the last two capital budgets to a bare minimum by my standards. And that gave us a chance to kind of just contain our debt over this year and right now next year. And I'll illustrate this a little bit better later, but this is a big deal. And healthcare and pension. So I've been showing this slide for the last few years, and it just gives you some historical perspective on our tax base. And it really comprises of about 6 categories, classifications as they call them. What happened here, and I think I was trying to illustrate something a few years ago, and it had a lot to do with the industrial number. But even in the residential, as of 2015, where it was about $2.5 billion, we, in this next slide, I will show you for this year, just in a 8-year time period, why this matters. That industrial number, even though at 219 million in 2015, dropped as low as 151 million in 2021, and was there for a couple of years at that amount. This year, going into this year, we're up at 196 million. And what happened? Well, that was the Bristol-Myers Squibb and all the work that was going on there. And that was almost about a $46 million increase that we realized in new assessment value. And on the commercial, that's been pretty steady. But just the residential over an 8-year period, over $210 million that it has grown. And just to go back, in a 5-year period between 2010 and 2015, it didn't raise that much, about 22 million. And in the last 8 years, it's up 210 million. So there's been, obviously the real estate market Summit has had great, valuation increases here, and that's good for all of you property owners. But this is what's reflected in our tax base. So year over year change for our tax base, it was almost $82 million. And that is significant. And as you can see, the last 5 years, 5-year increase, 221 million, which is fantastic. But that's represented in that beige area there. But why does that matter? Well, it matters for this reason. So what this increase is now generating, will generate this year, is approximately $3.5 million in new total tax revenue, of which the municipal portion is close to about $741,000. What that does is it reduces that 5% you saw in the levy, that 1.46 million, reduces that tax rate increase by 2 cents. That's what the impact is there. So that's why instead of it being 94 cents of an increase, it's only going to be about a 2-cent increase this year over last year. And then the overall growth of the tax base is also helping the other levies with these other rates. And that's why you're only seeing about 3.7% or 3.7 cent increase year over year. I'll get into the levies later. You'll see a slide just for to put it into numbers. This just gives you the percentage of how the tax rate is broken up, the total tax rate. And our municipal portion is 21%. And what that means is that for every tax dollar billed and collected, that we only retain 21 cents for our municipal services and to fund our municipal budget. So there was about a $4,000 increase here with the average residential assessment value from 23 to 24. So we take that average assessment, and this is how we sort of just juxtapose year over year change. And that's about $163 that it will increase if your assessed valuation is, and it's assessed, not market value, assessed. Of which this is $92 is the municipal portion of this. It's about 56% of the 163 estimated total property tax increase. This just shows over the last 11 years what the municipal tax rate has been. And you average it out, not that I like doing public math, but it's about a cent, a little under a cent over the 11 years, so not bad. I think I think we've done a pretty good job with our fiduciary responsibilities to just try to minimize tax burden. I think today NJ.com had an article posted, and they always do it around this time, March, but I think I saw something today on NJ.com. And they write about the highest tax values in the state of New Jersey, and they will show you every tax, this will be the previous year, so 2023, they're writing about who has the highest taxes in every county. It's the highest and lowest. And unfortunately, when you're looking at it through an assessed value and what that ultimately means in total tax dollars, Summit tends to be the top. It's not an apples to apples comparison, and this is where I think they're getting it wrong. You have to, the equalization ratio gives you an apples to apples of all the municipalities in the state of New Jersey, and what that is, you're talking about market value and what that means. And this is why it's more important, and this is why we show this effective tax rate example, because it completely reverses. This isn't magic, this is what it is when you're looking at it and you're trying to talk about how communities match up, but you need to include the equalization ratio to talk about it from a market value standpoint. And when you do that, Summit has the lowest taxes in Union County. So on to general fund revenues. The fund balance, next slide will illustrate a little bit more about that. You're just seeing the changes year over year in each revenue category. State aid was up, but that was, we received about $157,000 after the budget. Actually, the state budget was passed last year. They were doling out more state aid, but we had to put it in reserve, so this is what we're using this year. That's why it's increasing a little bit more than typical. Grants are down, but it's not, I can guarantee you will see more grant money pop up in the realized value. Last year we actually we were awarded and received $654,000 at the time the budget was introduced. We realized $2.1 million in grant revenues last year. We're at about 137 now. That's what we can show. What you'll see throughout the years, the council will entertain what we call Chapter 159 resolutions, and that is when you receive another award after the budget is adopted, and you include that in the budget we can spend on those. So that's what you'll see throughout the year. Enterprise funds, and I'll show you what happens there and why there's that increase. And then it just goes down. And then the debt obligation, we're a type 1 school district. We actually pay the school district's debt. So we take that off their levy before we give them what they need for their budget. And that's what that number is. And that's going up. And then the library tax, that's also a pass-through for us. And we have to show it in our municipal budget. So the fund balance, I'd have to say, I went back about 20 years, and this is the highest our fund balance was at the end of last year. It was really fantastic. We are using a little bit more this year, 170,000, but just relative to what we used last year, it's 10% lower than what we used, what we had available. But we still are left with $3.47 million in fund balance, which is the highest it's been in a couple of decades. So on to the local revenue and enterprise zones. Or enterprise fund rather. Interest on investments. I think everybody knows you're earning more money on anything in your bank accounts, your savings accounts. We earn, and I think it's probably around 4%. That's the going rate of what our funds are, our accounts. We took in about $1.2 million last year, which was almost $1 million more than we had anticipated. So we can realistically, given where rates are still, and can probably continue. They may change a little bit at the end. We're not sure what's going to happen. Nobody does. But we are only anticipating about $950,000. We could have gone up to 1.2, but I don't think that was a responsible way to handle that because things could change, rates could change. We could be earning less on our money. So we're taking a little more conservative approach, but still a significant increase in our local revenue. Municipal court fees have gotten back up to what was a typical year pre-pandemic. And then the decreases, this goes to what I spoke about before. Our 7-year agreement with the hospital ended at the end of last year. We collected about $5.56 million over the 7 years, so that was a big revenue contribution. Now you're going to see over in the enterprise funds, that's where we are showing what the law now generates from that, what they call a bed tax, but it's really a community service law. And that's what that $522,000 is now just, we have to put it under the enterprise fund contribution section. And then just parking services, they are their financial health is much improved. We're still seeing even improvements this year in revenue intake than we did last year. So we're definitely getting back up to pre-pandemic levels. The parking services utility was really on life support in 2020 and 21, like most, if not all, parking utilities or authorities. We literally shut down for 4 months. We were not taking any revenue. It depleted all of our fund balance. We now have slowly built it up, and they are at a point where we were taking in about $800,000 from the parking utility back in 2019. That's how healthy they were, and we went to zero for a number of years. So it did hurt our municipal budget, but now we're able to take a little bit more. They are definitely in a healthier position. They have over $1 million in fund balance again. And then just on the decrease side, that was the remaining portion of the ARP monies that we had from 2020, 2021. Or actually 21, 22. Then we still had a little bit left over last year, but we had to use it last year. And then general capital surplus we're just relying less on. So these are the levies that school district, a little different from what you see if you're looking at the school budget presentation. They have 2 years that they go over in their school year. It goes from June to September to June, and we operate on a calendar year budget cycle. So it's just we have to take half of 1 year and half of the other. So that's why those numbers don't always line up with what they're showing as their levy needs. And then county is going up. At least the executive budget was 1.75, but it gets a little more complicated because you have to look at the equalization numbers for all of the 21 municipalities, and then it's a percentage of that number, and that's how you can kind of calculate what it is. And it's pretty much the same as last year. It's about like 9.27% of the total levy amount. And then the library and the school debt. And we are under the 2% property tax levy. We have the formula that's in the state form budget that's on our website, as well as in our budget report. Gives you a little bit more understanding and detail just for education purposes, but we are under the 2% property tax levy cap. Now going to on the appropriation side, with the 50, how it's broken up, there's 3 categories here: our municipal operations, our other appropriations, and our reserve for uncollected taxes. And those are just what it consists of in each category. So for municipal operations, I'll just try to give you some highlights of what's changing here in each, and what just to give you an understanding of the increases in each department. General government, that's mainly due to litigation that we're in over Broad Street that we had to budget just litigation costs, as well as in our technology area. In public safety, it's a lot with salary and wages. Police, mainly. Fire is down, I think, overall. So it's mainly in the police department. In our community services, our recycling collection contract is up in the end of it's July 1st. It expires. So we're going out to bid again. We're anticipating, at least we're anticipating about $168,000 increase. That's what we budgeted additional funds. And then there's other sanitation vehicles that are just aging and that we need more maintenance of. Our disposal fees down at the transfer station are increasing. Those are the general 3 categories, probably comprise of a good deal of what's changing in community services. Normal salary wage increases that are accounted for. And then in insurance, it's the general liability and workers' comp. 18% increase, very unusual. We're looking usually at about 5% increase. That accounts for about $210,000 of that number. And then we have the health care that's going up over 7% again. Not loving what I'm hearing about the state health benefit plan going into next year. They're looking at another double-digit increase. I think we just have to look at some alternatives this year and see if it works for us, but that also requires an overall discussion with our collective negotiating units, but we're definitely going to be looking at that. And then pensions, not that it's insignificant, but much lower than it was last year. Last year was about a $500,000 increase. And then just other appropriations, that side. Grants, again, you'll see that number increase. This is just where we are right today. And then capital improvements, our capital budget is more than doubling. That's our 5% down payment in the capital improvements line. Debt service going down, that's good. And then the other 2 numbers, debt service is the school, and then deferred charge, there's just some assessment debt that we had to put in there. That's the majority of that 110 into a reserve. And for the other appropriations cap, we're under again, which we typically are. This is going to take a little explaining, so I'm just going to take my time here. So municipal personnel. Okay. So when we are showing the numbers, so for example, 2023, show it at the time we were introducing the budget, and that's what it was. A lot of things happen throughout the year. People retire, people resign. We hire people. It changes. But there were some, say, numerical changes here that I have to explain, and it goes back to the sort of latter part of last year going into 2024. So I want you to just look at the 2023 side. And what I'm talking about net impact, it plays into the 10 number that you're seeing as an increase. So administration, we've had a long-term employee that's been classified as a temporary part-time. We have now put her as a permanent part-time. So that's the one part-time increase there. In the fire department, for many years, we had a lieutenant who also served as a fire subcode official in the building department. We used to reflect that in our personnel numbers as a 0.5 FTE in fire and a 0.5 in our UCC budget. So just so you understand, when you're looking at past numbers, that's what it was. Person retired, we hired a new firefighter. So that really is just a wash from a full-time full FTE perspective. Now, when you go into the UCC, we hired a part-time fire subcode official. But now, we had a lead inspector that we hired mid to, I think it was in the summer last year, as a part-time. So we then realized we had a significant need in our code inspector area. So we made that lead inspector a lead inspector, code inspector as a full-time person. So the 2 part-times canceled out. So that's your 1 full-time and your 1 part-time increase in 2023. In 2024, so we're adding, and I'm just going to try to run through this and explain how we get to the net 4 full-time, 4 part-time. There's a new full-time facilities manager that we, through many discussions that we had with council and assessing the Department of Community Services, which is our largest department, there's a lot of activity going on, a lot of demands that we have, a lot of just mandates that we have in the community service area. We have over $40 million worth of facilities in the city assets. We have not had one person designated for taking care of just designated role for a facilities matter. Any private organization of that size would have somebody managing their facilities like that, of that sort of level. We need a full-time facilities manager. So that's 1 added position. Then we had two part-time positions. 1 is filled, 1 is vacant. And then last year rather, we really evaluated our sanitation area, and the per diems for some years worked, and they then really stopped working. No commitment, there's last minute call-ins, it just wasn't working for either party. We made the position part-time, 3 positions part-time for that reason, and it's working out great. So that's 3 part-time. So that's, right now you have 5 part-time, but we removed 1 out of the 1 maintenance worker that was part-time. So that's our net 4 part-time. We have 2 new police officers that are in the budget, they're vacant, and that's your 3. And then going into sewer, we have a part-time, but we also are taking a part-time staff assistant and making them full-time, so the part-timers are negate each other, and we have that 4th full-time. If you're a little confused, just spend a little time, you'll get it. But I'm just trying to give you a basic understanding of what happened here and why you're seeing this type of increase in the personnel staffing. Salary and wages makes up about 32% of our total appropriations number in our municipal budget. This includes all temporary, seasonal, and overtime, and you're just broken out by the utilities. And our UCC code, which is a dedicated trust. It's funded fully by their fees. The 2 utilities are user fee based, does not impact your municipal budget and your taxes. We show them as all the employees that work in these utilities and UCC. They are a part of our staff, so they even though they're just funded differently, that's all. So other expenses, you have your salary and wage. If you look at our budget, our salary and wage is 1 subsection, and then our other other expenses, what we call it, is just what it means. And that's the 677,000. A large part is that 168. There's, as I said earlier, there's maintenance fee, our sanitation vehicles, there's part of this other expense is even just the fire engine that we're leasing. That's about 86,000, I think this coming year for a lease payment. And there's just a number of others. I list them, all the major ones in our budget report. And those are the 3 line items, and what they're, the disposal charges are $1 million. The recycling curbsides, which is about $1 million, we're projecting. That's going to be, that's at least, we still have to go to bid, but that's what we're anticipating as an increase. And then the fire OE total overline is the 3rd largest. And then the litigation costs that I had explained earlier for the professional contract lines, and then just other decreases in some of the other, our tax appeals and our planning services. Healthcare, the gross number is $4.9 million, and you see the breakout for medical, dental, That's about a 7.4% increase. Some of it's offset by employee contributions. Then there's how we divvy it up into the utilities and the library. Those are actually the library for healthcare. They're under our plan. So we assess them a certain dollar amount for them to pay. And then just what we have a large and self-insurance fund that we're offsetting some of this increase. And then the ultimate, for our budget purpose this year, the net impact is about $150,000. And here's pension. It's historically, over the last, as I show, since 2015, which we're averaging about 6% increases, this is low this year. And, you know, that's an actuarial formula that the state, they give us our number. Yes, salary wage numbers, it's a 2-year lagging period, so we're reflecting 2 years behind with our salary wage numbers, but it's also returned on the funds, the pension funds, and that plays into it and what ultimately our share, which we fund 100% of. A lot of what you hear about what's not funded or unfunded is the state responsibilities, and that their big chunk of it is the teachers fund. And then debt service down this year, which is fantastic. And I think we've sort of plateaued in our debt service. And you can see just right now with our scheduled bond payments, they're going down significantly over the next few years. But I'll get a little bit more of how that may be offset by just capital project needs and debt new debt that we'll have to take on. And then this just gives you a real high level. Statutorily, you're allowed to go up to 3.5% of your equalization value. And what that means is any given year, you're taking your assessed valuation, whatever your ratio is, your equalization ratio, and you get a number. That's over $9 million for the city of Summit this year. It takes a 3-year average, and that's your $8.4 billion. We are well under what we could statutorily borrow. We would never, I mean, just barring any catastrophe, would ever have to go anywhere near that, but we are, it's about 21% of the overall debt number of that $294 million you see there. And then that 0.75 is really your net debt to your equalization. So this just gives you a historical perspective of what we've paid out, actual debt principal we've paid off over these years, and what we took on as new debt and capital budgets. And you can, what I stated earlier with the 22-23 year budgets, where we took in, we were paying out more than half or around half than what we were taking on in new debt. And that was critical to why we've sort of stabilized our debt situation this year. We just had some big years, and that really is just, you know, 2 new facilities we built over the years, and our community center and our fire department. So getting into the capital budget. So we started, I think if anybody was, or anyone's looked at the preliminary capital budget, we were at a $12.7 million number. We are presenting a capital budget at $6.7 million. $4 million in the general fund, and then you see the amounts for sewer and parking. Just gives you the breakdown. Nothing changed for fire and police in what they presented in December. Community services, that started at about $4 million, that went down. And then community programs, that was over $2 million, and that's down to $710. And then parking and sewer, which I'll get into more of these in the coming slides. Fire departments, just it's a lot of gear replacement, new equipment, radio, IT stuff for our new fire headquarters, and this is just exactly what was shown. A private fire prevention vehicle that's pretty much reached its useful life. In our police department, this is again the same, hasn't changed, and you kind of see some of the pictures here with the speed radar mounted signs that you'll see under speed limit signs. There's a number, I don't recall the exact number of those, what we'd be looking at, but we should be able to get a good number for 25,000. And then body armor replacement for 15 officers that need to replace their body armor. We need to seriously upgrade and improve our security, our camera system, security system in City Hall and the police department. And then the license plate the LPRs as they're referred to, the cameras, the geofencing that you may hear. I think we're looking at 6 locations, 12 cameras. That just is a continuation of what we funded last year in our capital budget. So we're really trying to build that out for more or less just anything that's happening that we can identify what we perceive, and that has a lot to do with vehicles, but anything that's going on that we need some intelligence and just some video evidence of what's going on, and being able to just get to the people that are fortunately taking cars, and that's some of what we do, but any other crime that's committed in the city limits, we can use those for. Community services, we're down to this 2.6. So you can kind of read this again. There's we have a capital budget that details what each capital project is within each area, from road improvement system, water to traffic safety enhancement programs, and so forth. I highlight this with the grants because of this would be a $2.7 million number, but we have received and have been awarded $1.25 million in grants for the road improvement projects that you see up here. There's 3 projects. It's Canoe Brook, Mount Vernon, and Division, I think, might be the other one. Vehicle equipment, this is just the number of trucks that are definitely beyond their useful life, and we have pushed it off, and we are at this point we need these new vehicles and equipment. And then this just gets to some of our other projects for buildings and our transfer station. Also Ashwood Court, where we're doing some restoration work down there. And then our Broad Street, this is the firehouse. And, depending on we need to decommission the fuel tank once the fire operations are moved to the other side of Broad. But that's what these numbers, and then it's just building upgrades and maintenance work. And then community programs. Here are the 3 areas of funding. I think you could probably read that there aren't Tatlock lights on here, so that's probably good news for a lot of people. This is just ADA, some safety things that we have to address down at the golf course, so some bridges, parking lot improvements, and then the upper Tatlock playground, that's really 50% of what we're estimating to upgrade that playground. And we'll have the other half next year's capital budget. And then just normally with park furnishings that we need, just the wear and tear on our park, just our benches. And then onto the sewer utility. This is just basic infrastructure work, capital projects that we're always trying to keep a pretty large city asset, keeping things flowing. And that goes to our pump stations, which are critical. That feeds into the joint meeting sewer mains. And then parking services, a lot of complaints in the K-lot about space size. So we got some estimate on what it could do to sort of widen these spaces, but could lose more spaces. We'll still continue to evaluate this, but we had to allocate some money for that. And then just some sidewalk railing repair we have to do over by the Broad Street garage. This is the rest of the 6-year plan we are statutorily obligated to put together. This is the 5 years, and this is relevant for really the next slide that I'll show you and what it could impact future debt service obligations. Look, we have a lot of projects that we continue to defer. I'm not saying all of them rise to a high level, but we just make these tough decisions with our capital budget every year, and they sort of just get pushed into other years. Some are just, some of it's just useful life, and they're just planned in that particular year. And then the PP column is just prospective projects, which there's never ending number of projects we have to do for community services. So. But this is relevant for this slide. This year, 2024, our debt service payment is $6.5 million. What that blue portion of the bar graph represents is just if you are just the capital budget numbers, and 2024 is relevant because that represents what we'll be paying if we take, which we will be taking out a note to fund it, a 12-month note. Interest, what we have to pay for that represents next year's blue section. But if you're doing that $10 million capital budget next year, then you see the impact in 2026 and 2027. And then when you start to get into a third year of a note and you're paying principal, that's where you see it grow even more. Fortunately, in that red column, those long-term debt obligations are significantly decreasing, and that's what I was showing earlier, and how in, I believe, 2027 is dropping by over $900,000. So this is helping, and as you can see, it is not these dramatic increases we were showing several years ago, but that was a result of minimizing our capital budget numbers. But now we're at sort of just in a plateau, but we will have to make very difficult decisions. I would not recommend taking on all of that, all of those projects next year and the year after. We just have to keep this just managed well. But it is in a much better picture than what we were showing years ago and how steep those increases would be in our annual debt service obligations. And this is just the last slide, just highlighting a few points about our fund balance, liquidity, and our municipal tax levy this year. But because of the $82 million of new tax base growth and what the impact it has on our new tax revenue and ultimately our tax rates and what that's generating, and that leads to our 2-cent increases that we're projecting for our municipal tax rate this year, and of which you'll see it with the average assessed residential assessed value, residential home, which is about $92 of that 163. And that is it. Hopefully that wasn't too overwhelming, but if you were wearing those glasses, nobody would have saw you falling asleep. So I tried to warn you. Anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you, City Administrator Rogers. This is just the introduction, so I just want to make sure there's no comments from council. Any comments from council?
Are we going to get to comment when we introduce it in a minute?
Yeah, but I didn't know if you
Okay.
guys, okay. All right, then we'll move on. All right. Let's see, on to resolutions. Councilman Minker.
Thank you, Council President. This is number
11091.
Ms. Hamlin has asked if we're entertaining public comment first, or if this comes first.
No, this is an introduction. You mean from the presentation?
No, I wasn't talking about that. I'm just making sure we're not skipping. I'm just making sure.
No.
Hold on.
We're going to have public comment when he introduces the resolution. Go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. This is number 11091, and this resolution introduces the 2024 municipal parking and sewer operating budgets and establishes a hearing date, which will be Tuesday, May 7th at 7:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. Thank you to my council colleagues and our mayor, who serve on the Finance Committee with me, City Administrator Rogers and CFO Tammy Baldwin, and their staffs, and everyone in the City Hall for their work that went into this. Summit's municipal budget plus the library make up about 23% of your total tax bill. Summit schools make up about 52%, and about 25% going to Union County. So while this budget is, this document is pretty huge, you'll see tomorrow on the website, it is well worth your time. So please take a thorough look and ask questions. Again, the hearing on this is May 7th at 7:30 p.m. This year's municipal tax rate increase is about 2%. This increase comes at a time when Union County is also raising taxes for the first time in several years, a 1.75% increase, and Summit Schools is increasing their budget by 2.956%, higher than their cap. This budget is a shared product of the Finance Committee. It does a lot of good things: improvements to infrastructure, roads and crosswalks, equipment for police and fire, and much needed playground improvements. There were some things that we disagreed on in the committee. When I asked about the potential for a city tax increase of significantly less than 2%, I was told that those days are over, which is concerning. because we are seeing that ever-increasing reliance on the residential portion of our tax base. I am also concerned about our city's long-term affordability. We increased the number of full-time employees this year by 4, which you can absolutely do when needed, but we have to recognize that this comes with additional pension obligations, which won't show up until 2 years from now, health insurance increases, and other costs that all add up to millions of dollars over the next decade. Now, I was also assured that attrition, people retiring or leaving, will continue to happen, giving us flexibility in the future. But in order for us to take strategic advantage of attrition, we need a plan in place. We need to make our city more efficient and to be ready to use attrition when we are able. I encourage us to complete a citywide analysis of our business processes to assess what we do on a daily basis at the department level, and to use the results of that analysis to help us plan to take advantage of future attrition strategically over time. If there are areas where we can be more efficient, we need to jump on those. If there are ways to change how we operate for the sake of the residents who are feeling the effects of how expensive it is to live here, we need to make those changes. This budget, during budget discussions, I was told that the days of 2% or under 2% tax increases are over, and I heard something similar with regard to the school's budget, and that's a concern. Those of us who are feeling the cost of living increases in this city, I hear you. These things all emphasize the need to make our city operate more efficiently and for us to plan ahead for how we take advantage of attrition over time, and we need to begin that today. I move to introduce this resolution.
A second.
Okay, thank you. Council comments?
Sure, I'll make a comment. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. People who know me know I like to comment on the budget. Thanks to all those involved in crafting the budget. Thank you for the presentation just now. Michael, last year, as you emphasized, we had an exceptionally difficult budget year. The trifecta of challenges we faced in 2023 were huge increases in debt, pension obligations, and healthcare costs. The value of all property within the city of Summit grew by about $34.7 million last year, producing $314,000 in tax revenue, which was not nearly enough to offset those costs. That situation forced us to make incredibly difficult choices, and ultimately an increase in taxes was unavoidable. In stark contrast from the city's perspective, this year is much rosier. Debt obligations actually went down. The growth of healthcare and pension costs are minuscule by comparison to last year, while the total value of property in Summit grew by an amazing $81.9 million, producing $714,000 in additional tax revenue. I know we're going to have a budget hearing. I'm hopeful that we're going to have a lot more discussion. I don't think I'm the first one to deliver this news, but Summit is extremely expensive. It costs so much to live here. The prices of rent, groceries, childcare, healthcare, and commuting are all going up, plus school and county taxes are going up significantly as well. So my gut reaction when I went through my binder this weekend, giddily, was to simply ask, is it really necessary to be raising taxes this much? Between now and the hearing, I want to better understand what difficult decisions were made, where are the trade-offs, what criteria was used to justify what's in the budget. I'm curious about those questions, especially as related to the increase in staff and the capital budget, which of course is more than double what it was last year. Every tax dollar needs to be spent responsibly and with a great deal of scrutiny. So I look forward to digging into this even further on behalf of the taxpayers we serve. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Councilman. Anybody else? No? Sure.
Greg, thank you for your comments. I agree that I'm looking forward to continued discussions. Michael, the one thing that sticks out here for me is, and it's maybe not the most important, but is the number for the grants. It's a lot lower than it was at this point last year. I would ask that every committee take a hard look at what your committee is asking and projecting for grants for 2024. I think it's really important because that is one thing we can control. I noticed specifically tonight there's 3 or 4 that are on that list that we can add very quickly, but This isn't something that we should go along and look at next month or the following month. This is something that we need to identify by the next meeting what we are going after. It's my recommendation that every committee look at that in the next 7 days. I think it's imperative. We pay Millennium a lot of money, to the tune of $3,500, almost $4,000 a month. We should put them to work, and we should get a lot more grants because that number is very low. And how long do we have before we adopt the budget, Michael?
Until May 7th.
Right, so I think it's a number that's strikingly low, and I know it does change, but I think that's something we can all control.
Is there any comments on why it's so dramatically lower?
It's just when awards come in, whatever we're awarded in a grant, and at this point, it's a little bit lower. We might even have a couple right now, but it's just timing. It's also, you could get a big grant in the beginning of the year, and that's why it was so, I don't remember what we received at the beginning of last year. I'm not as concerned as Councilwoman Hammett about it, but I do believe that the committee should continue to evaluate every grant opportunity which is provided by Millennium on a sometimes daily basis or whatever's coming available. So we always look at these grants, and whatever projects we do have, we do pursue a respective grant for it, so whatever qualifies.
And my only other comment would be that as a committee, we worked, I think it was every Thursday at 4 o'clock, and it is exhausting, and I thank Tammy and her staff and Michael, all of you for putting forth so much effort. Just for the community's perspective, we spend a lot of time going over the numbers, but we don't have a lot of input prior to this adoption on Michael's vision for the city. So I do think that, over the next couple of weeks and months that we can actually have some of those discussions and obviously support Michael and his team and all the work that they have put together for the city. So thank you all for all your work.
All right, well, I would like to say thank you. This was quite a Herculean, I can't say it, but Michael said it, effort. And a couple things, I agree, Summit's very expensive. I actually think New Jersey in general has gotten very expensive. We've almost doubled our budget in New Jersey. So it is hard to make difficult decisions in New Jersey or in Summit. So we certainly really went through with a I can't talk tonight, a tooth comb. Oh my goodness, a fine tooth comb. And one thing I did learn is that we are really a lean city when it comes to employees. So of course we always want to cut back where we can, but I have found that we probably have a lot more work on our plates than we did 10 years ago with unfunded mandates. I think it would be a really interesting exercise to understand the type of unfunded mandates that get placed on people's desks where we don't really see the cost of that. So whether it's hiring employees for lead inspections, whether it's starting to create reports for stormwater management, all really important things, but they're not tangible and visible to the everyday. So I think the workload behind the scenes that we don't see as citizens has increased exponentially. So I just want to say I think that the staff that we have does a great job with the work that we do. So, but we definitely need to dig in. And with that, I'd like to ask if there's any public comments. No? Okay. On this resolution. Oh, not yet. Okay, all right, no worries. All right, roll call, please. Yep.
Mr. Boyer?
Yay.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
Mr. Pulowski? Mr. Smallwood?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
Council President Allen?
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, Councilman Miniger, next resolution.
Thank you, Council President. This is number 11092, and this resolution introduces the 2024 Special Improvement District budget and establishes a hearing date, which will be Tuesday, May 7th at 7:30 here in the council chambers. The Special Improvement District is better known as Summit's Downtown. Taxes levied from Summit's Retail Business District are managed by Summit Downtown Incorporated. SDI's budget is used to promote downtown businesses, and this budget will be available on the website as well tomorrow. I move to adopt this resolution.
A second.
Okay, thank you. Council comments? Public comments? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Boyer?
Yes.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
Mr. Pulowski? Mr. Smallwood?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
Council President Allen.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to public comments. And we are going to welcome comments from any member of the public about issues not on tonight's agenda. Whenever an audience member reads from a prepared statement, please provide a copy to the city clerk at cityclerk@cityofsummit.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and permit all to be heard, please speak once and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Additionally, we need you to state your name and your home address, please. And if you are speaking on behalf of a group, please still give us your home address, but also let us know which group you are representing. Okay, public comments is open.
Good evening. My name is Jean Crichton, Crichton, and I have lived at 173 Summit Avenue for the past 29 years. I'm speaking tonight in favor of At Home in Summit, of which I am a member. We are a nonpartisan group of Summit residents who have joined together to advocate for affordable housing options in our city. Excuse me. Right now, I'm sure we're all aware of the need for affordable housing here and in most of New Jersey, especially for low and middle income residents. Some of these folks could be our own sons and daughters. For some of you, it could be your parents. We are asking the council and the community to support a plan by a local nonprofit, the Summit Affordable Housing Corporation, to build an affordable apartment building on the site of the current Summit Firehouse. The 42-unit building would have 4 stories, with a majority of 2-bedroom apartments, that would be 25, also 9 3-bedroom units, and 8 with 1 bedroom. Parking is included. Households who could qualify include Summit police officers, firefighters, teachers, healthcare workers, and staff of downtown stores and restaurants. It could also include longtime residents who have downsized or have been displaced from rental apartments due to property sales and rent increases. The phrase affordable housing scares some of us, but it's important to remember that this housing will be occupied by hardworking people who will contribute to our community. The City Council will select the builder and will control the entire process with the help of our Affordable Housing Corporation. There will be full transparency on development fees and financing. You can see the proposal at our website, athomeinsummit.org. It is financially sound. The project will utilize state funds and it will be built with limited cost to Summit residents. Naturally, the residents will utilize the roads, schools, and other public services just as the rest of us do. But I was talking about the cost of the building. Summit has a proud history of developing stable and affordable homes for people who would otherwise be priced out of our city's housing market. I urge the council and the community to move ahead with this proposal. It makes a lot of sense, it's the right thing to do, and there are many people in Summit, including me, who want to see this happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Jean. All right. Thank you. Okay. Yep.
Hello.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Thank you.
It's okay.
Okay. State your name, your home address, and we'll do a timer for 3 minutes.
Anita Musica, 118 Orchard Street, Muzyka. So I spoke last year, and I wanted to know, is there any follow-up on the traffic conditions on Orchard and Bryant Park? As you already know, the Bryant Park has been made a one-way street, which is such an inconvenience to people like myself, who spend now additional time coming and going into my driveway. The traffic on Orchard is really relentless. It's especially during the morning and afternoon hours. There's a lot of people coming through. And I am trying to find out if Bryant Park, are you guys going to revisit the issue with the Bryant Park, or is that going to be permanent? Is that going to be one-way street going forward? That's all I have.
Perfect. You know, Anita, can we have your, is that a statement? Just so we have it? Oh, no, okay. Do you know what? Just really quickly, can you email us at the city clerk at cityofsummit.org?
About what I just said?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
just so we follow up. We don't want to lose.
Understood.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
very good. Thank
All
you.
Good evening. I'm Claire Toth at 11 Sunset Drive. Parking. It's a topic that's been discussed and debated for years here in Summit, and it sometimes feels like a one-step forward, two-step back situation, and for good reason. We've got an award-winning downtown with many wonderful shops and restaurants, and lots of people driving in to patronize them. We've got 9 in-neighborhood schools, several apartment and condo complexes, a few great little satellite business districts, all nestled in just a few square miles. In recent years, city departments have created comprehensive plans, including for streets, for sidewalks, and for parks. I'd love to see Summit create one for parking. A few months ago, Council addressed parking concerns raised by residents on Beauvoir Avenue, and tonight you'll be addressing concerns raised by residents on Blackburn Road. Rather than these one-offs, I suggest the Parking Services Committee look holistically at parking throughout the city. For example, residents near the Ashwood Avenue Business District, where there are no time limits on parking, find employees parking on their streets all day long, occasionally blocking driveways and parking too close to the intersections. Residents of the apartment buildings on Locust Street, where there's inadequate tenant parking, are limited to 2-hour parking during the day. And understandably, some find that impossible to comply with. Even in our downtown, where Summit has focused most of its parking resources and attention, there are opportunities to improve. Specifically, there seems to be no parking enforcement after about 5 or 6 p.m. We can all testify to bad parking behavior after hours. There's double parking, illegal parking, and so on. We register our cars using license plate numbers so we can go into the transfer station. We pay for parking downtown based on license plate numbers. So if we undertook a comprehensive parking study, perhaps we'd find that instituting tailored parking rules based on license plate numbers for both neighborhood residents and non-residents would ease much of the burden. No doubt other opportunities exist. I know we've got many smart, creative people who'd love to get to work on finding them. So in closing, I suggest the Community Programs and Parking Service Committee get the ball rolling on this much-needed improvement for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I've emailed this to Rosie.
We have a very polite audience tonight. Everybody's raising their hand before they come up. Thank you.
That was an accident. Daniel Jaxel, JAXCL, 28 Morris Avenue. I wanted to talk about what Anita Musica is talking about, because I think there's a difference between creating a one-way street because there's a traffic safety necessity and converting a two-way public street into a one by simply throwing it onto other adjacent streets and neighbors, which I think has been done with Bryant Parkway. Near the area that I'm talking about, there are some traffic safety necessities in one-way streets. Example, Springfield Avenue between Broad and Morris. There is a convergence of the Huntley Tavern and the car wash and the veterinarian. So it's wide, and some of the visibility is constricted as you have the curve. So you have the one-way on Springfield. Makes sense. Orchard Street, you have one-way between Broad Street and Morris. Because you have the church parking lot exit. And also, if for any reason there was a backup at Orchard because you didn't have 2 lanes going towards Springfield, it would go all the way back, and you would be affecting Broad Street, which would be a catastrophe. And then finally, Denman Place is another example that's one way, because you have the convergence of Park Avenue and Broad Street, and you just can't have people going west. It's not safe. That's not the case with Bryant Parkway. The ostensible reason for making it one way was that cars are going on an average 5 miles over the speed limit. There are some left turns that are difficult on Bryant Parkway, but if you take the whole area of Broad and Morris and all the intersecting streets and cut-through streets, there are plenty of left turns that are very difficult. So if you ask yourself, okay, where are the cars now that can't go on Bryant Parkway? What is basically going to happen? And the way I see it, you're going to have cars that are going up Springfield Avenue. They're just going to continue on Morris, which adds to Morris. For the people getting off of 24 or 124, either one, they're either going to go down Middle to Morris now to Orchard, or they're going to continue on Broad Street, cut through either Chapel Street or Springfield to get to Morris, and then cut through Morris. Or I think a lot of people will simply go down Broad Street and make the left on Orchard. And already I see,
Sorry.
see that that's what's happening.
Thank you.
So a lot of
Yep.
going to Orchard, and I
Okay.
think that I just want to, just very quickly.
Yeah,
very
we just
quickly.
have to, we are a strict 3 minutes. I'm
All
so
right, all
sorry.
right. I think that the ordinance should be
Yeah.
repealed, and you should be looking at the impact of the whole neighborhood.
Thank you, noted, thank you. Okay, who's next? You coming up? Hi, Tara. Come on. Hi.
Tara Gagliano, 6 Ashwood Court. So all of you know me. I've been here. I feel like I've kind of been in the land of forgotten. Kind of needed to show my face again. I'm glad to see that we're on the capital budget as of this time. But I want to read something that was introduced tonight that kind of just doesn't sit well with me. So I believe it's goal number 5, enhance the quality of life for all city residents, creating a safe and welcoming environment for current and future generations. That is not what I have lived for the past 6 years. That is not what I currently live. The message that has been sent to my family, my now deceased parents, as well as my 5 and 3-year-old daughters, is we don't matter. That the affordable housing, Habitat for Humanity, families matter. And I've received messages online about how they're blaming me, the residents that are moving in, for certain things, which is already creating a contentious relationship. I don't understand what's taking so long. I understand government works slow, okay? My homeowner's insurance is still in question regarding my wall, okay? The half-assed wall that Habitat for Humanity put back and never asked me about it. I still have drainage issues coming through and over the wall. I mean, let's face it, what was approved was illegal, and we all know this. But at the end of the day, what's really concerning is future generations. My kids, this has been their whole life, and this is what they've lived. And this is not the message that I think that we as a community should be sending. And my kids do matter, and that's why I'm here again, because my kids shouldn't have to live with a fence in front of their house because my homeowner's insurance is an issue. I also have questions about the sidewalk. I wonder if the city taxpayers understand and know that they are paying for a private walkway that they cannot use. Okay? That is a private walkway. There is no trespassing throughout that community right there that has been built. It's very clear that nobody is to enter that community. It's gated off in the front. It's gated off with a sign, no trespassing. But yet, there is a walkway in front of my house that was never there before, that was created specifically for that community. Okay, so now if I have 2 kids and bought a house on Morris Avenue, my kids would have to walk around the corner. Okay, they would not be able to walk through the community and access that walkway, which taxpayers are paying for. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll
Shouldn't
call
be
you
there.
tomorrow. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Jocelyn Modesto, 61 Butler Parkway. With the proposed lighting of Tatlock Fields, the already overburdened Tatlock and Washington communities are being asked to bear more than their fair share for the sports programs in Summit. Why is the Washington community being tapped on the shoulder again to step up for the entire sports community when others have failed to do their equitable part? Washington and Tatlock Fields were once grass fields. Beginning in 2004, both fields were converted to turf over considerable objections from the Tatlock community. It deserves to be repeated here that a commitment was made to residents not to add lights at the Tatlock Fields. The upper field at the high school, also in Washington District, was turfed and lit with stadium lights. Now the lower high school field is being converted to turf. All these fields get considerably more usage than the other fields in town because they are turfed. Now the town wants to add even more prolonged usage by lighting them all. The grass field at Franklin was slated to be turfed at the same time as the Tatlock Fields, but that never happened. The Board of Education Admin Office says there are no plans to turf the fields at the middle school, even though they are scheduled to undergo renovations later this year. When we asked the DCP about turfing Memorial's grass fields, we were told the neighbors there would have a fit. When someone asked the DCP about lining the Memorial tennis courts for pickleball, she was told within 14 minutes that they would need resident feedback for that. Just to be clear, 14 minutes for the town to express concern over the Memorial residents experiencing the same noise that the Tatlock community faces every day. We were advised that the possibility for lights at the Memorial tennis courts was raised about 15 years ago, but city officials felt lights would upset residents on Ashland, and the idea was dropped. There was talk in 2007 about turfing fields at Wilson, but that plan was abandoned when neighbors there made their disapproval known. All these examples highlight the consideration for other neighborhoods' concerns and the desire to preserve other neighborhoods' green spaces and peace and quiet. They also illustrate that the Tatlock and Washington communities are being bullied into taking on a disproportionate amount of the sports commitments for the town. Right now, all the Tatlock community has left are a few slim hours each evening of peace and tranquility. And the fact that it is up for debate whether we are entitled to that is shocking. By all standards, it would be unjust and unfair for this council, DCP, or the sports community to ask us to give up that little bit of serenity that is left. The Tatlock community already does far more than its equitable share.
Michelle Kalmanson, 67 Butler Parkway. I just wanted to respond to a few things that happened at the last council meeting. Mr. Guida said at the last meeting that the Washington community has not been approached and told they need to fundraise for the playground. This is true. We haven't been approached yet. At the capital budget workshop meeting in December of 2023, when Mr. Ozorowski got to the bottom of slide 28, where it says winter of 2024 will engage Washington PTA, that is when he told the room that they would ask the PTO to help fundraise for the playground, which is a public playground. I was in the room when he said this, as was Mr. Guida and most of the people on the dais. The playground at Washington has been falling apart for years, and I contacted DCP in April of 2021 about this. If it's truly priority one, then fully fund it. This is a public playground that is open to everyone and serves every child in Summit. Don't make them wait any longer. We were also accused of spreading misinformation a couple of weeks ago. Everything that we post on our website is either backed up by documentation or it was something that was said at a meeting I attended. If there is something that is inaccurate, please show us where we are wrong and we will remove it. I had a question too. I was confused because this slide, it says that there was going to be $500,000 for the Tatlock playground, and the total cost is $1.3 million. And now tonight, the slide said $250,000, and next year the rest of it would be funded. But if it's another $250,000 next year, we're still short. Is that right?
Just keep going on.
That
yeah,
was,
we'll
I'm
answer
sorry,
it.
that was
no,
it.
no.
That was
That's
it.
okay. We can answer it with the
Okay.
comments. Okay. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, can we keep the slide too, just so that, yeah, through council comments. Thank you. Just gonna keep this, okay.
Hi, good evening, Diego Hoik. I'll let Nicole work the clock. Some neighbors who oppose the temporary closure of Maple have argued that the temporary closure is illegal. Based on the minutes and discussion during the May 2nd, 2023 council meeting, it would appear that that is incorrect. During that meeting, Councilmember Miniger asked City Solicitor Jacoby, quote, "Did Common Council did anything illegal in closing Maple Street in 2022?" End quote. To which Mr. Jacoby responded, and I quote, "Common Council's job is to pass an ordinance. The ordinance that you pass is virtually identical to the ordinance that Melbourne passed that was approved by DOT. So for anyone to say that the ordinance is illegal, well, if it was illegal, why was it approved by DOT, the ordinance in Melbourne? That doesn't make sense. DOT approved it. In fact, DOT invites the city, that is Summit, in the August 2nd email, Melbourne did it. You could do it the same way. So clearly, DOT thinks that the ordinance and that methodology works." End quote. A few weeks ago, when asked whether the temporary closure is legal, Director Schrager referenced a memorandum written by Mr. Jacoby in February 2023 that describes at least 2 methods to legally effect such a temporary closure. I opened this document, but the city, who is a solicitor's client, refused to share it on the grounds that it is attorney-client privileged. Our neighbors who don't want to close down Maple have every right to their opinion, but not to their own facts. For this reason, it is in the public interest to put to rest the issue of the legality of a temporary closure at Maple Street. Given that it is legal to temporarily close Maple, this council should follow the collective choice of the public, who have supported a seasonal closure by upwards of 70% in 2 surveys, one done by Council President Allen. I urge our Council President and our Mayor to release the document to the public, which as clients they're allowed to do. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close public comment, and I just want to see if there's any comments from council?
Through you, Council President?
Yeah.
Just the last thing, I wasn't aware of that document. Are we able to are we able to get that document from Giacobbe and get it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's that?
Wait,
My
wait,
legal
yeah.
opinion?
No, the document, yeah, I guess you sent one to Mr. Schrager. I was just not aware of that particular document.
You guys can look at it, but it's attorney-client privilege. It's not a public record.
But attorney-client privilege does allow the mayor or the president, council president, to allow that to be shared?
The mayor and council members can look at it. It was addressed to Mr. Schrager over 2 years ago.
Okay. I guess my main question is, can we share it?
Andy, are you
To the
saying-
public, you
can-
cannot share it with the public. The answer to that is absolutely not.
Okay.
Andy's are you asking if we can waive the privilege for that
Exactly,
specific
yes.
document?
Yes.
Well, I don't recommend that, and I'll tell you why. Because you ask me to give you legal opinions all the time. I can tell you what my legal opinion was. Generally, it's to follow the law, and the memo says what the law is and that you have to follow it. But to waive a privilege is a very serious thing, and what it does is that you're going to now have myself and Ron and everyone else in my firm who writes legal opinions to be very careful about what we put in a memo legally with pros, cons, etc., and giving you guys guidance, because if you're going to release it to the public, I have to sanitize it. That's the reality. The reason you have attorney-client privilege is that you're not only giving legal advice, you're giving direction.
Right.
And so I would strongly urge you not to waive privilege.
And then one more question. Are we allowed to speak during, or is the public allowed to speak during DARs in council? Because we had last time, it was mentioned, and I think it came from you, Mr. Giacobbe, that it was illegal to speak public comment on DARs. And it came when we were discussing Maple Street closure at the end of, it was like 11:30, the end of a meeting.
I don't recall saying that.
Okay.
If you have public comment, you have your 3 minutes, you can speak.
Okay.
So I don't think that there's any, I never said anything is illegal about somebody speaking.
No, I think the DARs, we don't open it up to public comment because it's for the ability for council to have an open dialogue in front of the public. That's my understanding.
I don't think you do. People have the right to speak during the open public portion session that you just went through.
Right.
If you have a DAR, DAR is really, it's a request to do something in the future. So you're, I don't even know what DAR stands for, to be clear.
Discussion, action, referral.
But
Okay,
the council
so-
president can do whatever.
What?
The council president can do whatever you want, though, right? Your prerogative is to open it up for public comment
But-
if you want, right?
Well,
There's
you were
no
the council.
But there's been no action on it. So a discussion, action, referral is, I want to refer some matter to law and labor, or I want to refer some matter to public safety to look into it, study it, and report back to the council. So people can have that discussion on any item during the public comment. There's nothing that you guys have taken action on. You're asking your colleagues and the different folks in administration to look at something, come up with, whether it requires a resolution and an ordinance, a study, whatever that is, they report back. That'd be the more appropriate time to have a discussion, because the DAR is just really more of a concept.
Okay.
An idea. So I think it's better to have the DAR, have it fleshed out, and then when it comes back to the council, that's when you would have, but people can speak on any item. I mean, very often, you guys hear a public comment, and that generates your idea to have a DAR. I know that Councilwoman Hamlin's done that a couple of times, where somebody has spoken, they said, you know what, I think that would be good to refer it to this committee. Rosie, can you do a DAR so that we can get that going? So that's really why you have the public comment, because it often, you might not be aware of something going on in a given neighborhood or a given part of the city. The public comment then will spur a DAR for you as council people to take action.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to clarify, because Councilwoman Levine, I think I'm trying to remember if you were president or if Councilwoman Fox was president, but Councilwoman Levine had put it on the agenda as a DAR, and I don't believe we opened it up to public. She wanted to be able to talk about what the status was, and that DAR allowed for us as a council to deliberate publicly, because we cannot deliberate behind closed doors on topics like this. So
Right.
I don't think it was.
Yeah, I think you certainly could, though, right? I think the suggestion was that we couldn't open it up to public comment, but I think we certainly could if we wanted to. I think there's very little as council president you can't do, right? Like to just, this is your meeting.
Yeah.
I think if you wanted to have public comment, you could allow it. Was that the question?
Yeah,
I don't know where
illegal
this,
was my main
I don't know where this
concern.
conversation started,
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I just want to be clear that if we have a DAR, does it have to be consistent? So if we want to have a DAR just to have a dialogue for the council, can we say for this meeting, we're just having a council dialogue on DAR? But if we want to put a different DAR on the agenda 2 weeks later and say we want it to be council and community, is that allowable? Because you don't want to get yourself into trouble when you're being inconsistent. So I think we need to get an actual answer on if we can change it from meeting to meeting, topic to topic.
I'd say you can, as council president.
I just want to make sure.
I hope you can.
Some people might come up and say otherwise.
Council President,
Yeah.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
If you go back to the last meeting, we specifically talked about this at our 3-minute 45. You specifically say, are there any additional comments? Thank you, Director Schrager. Okay, and I believe you asked whether or not you do public comment for DARs or it's just council. At that point, there was an answer given. So we should look back to the advice that was given at the last meeting and provide an answer.
I can tell you what it is, sorry. It was that, no, you can't have a discussion because that's illegal.
Okay, so let's just hold off. Our council president receives advice from our city solicitor, okay?
Wait, just to clarify.
I would love to get in writing if a DAR is illegal to discuss from public.
But I want to be very clear that our council president asked the question to allow the public to comment and ask questions in that meeting at our 3-minute 45.
I didn't say anything was illegal. If you can't you can't just blurt out and start speaking if it's not during public comment. So if the council president wanted to allow somebody to speak, that's her prerogative to do. But my recommendation is that that's not the time to speak. So, but again, I have a phone. People can call me. I don't know why this is happening here on a dais, quite frankly. This kind of feels like a little ambushy. So I think that
Are we allowed to have comments from the audience? Is another question I'd like to ask.
Councilman Miniger,
Do we have a question?
Councilman Miniger, just let him finish, and then you can come back.
Stop.
I'll come back.
Please don't comment from the audience. So if somebody has an issue that something's going to come up, I don't know why I'm being asked tonight at 9:15 when the last meeting was 2 weeks ago. People could call me. You could ask Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers could call me. I am very, very available, and I can tell you that anytime any council member calls me, I take their call or I get back to them. So if there's something that I said, I don't remember it, to be quite honest with you, because I probably go to 4 meetings a week. So 2 weeks ago, when was this allegedly occurred?
Hour 3, minute 45. Council President Allen asked, I'm not sure what your response was, Matt, to be honest, but what I do know is she specifically opened it up to the council, and she also asked if she should engage the public at that time.
And if I said, I don't think, if my recommendation was no, it's the same recommendation I'm giving tonight. I don't think it's a DAR. There's no action. You're going to study it, and you may or may not take action.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would ask that all of you, if you have a question about something I said and did, ask me, and then I can look at it. I just don't recall that at all, saying something is illegal. If somebody gets up or wants to speak, when it's not public portion, I will shut them down because this is your meeting and there's got to be some order. And the order that takes place is because you have a designated public comment session. I've already said you guys are very generous because you ask people comments on different resolutions, etc. But DARs, there's no need to have a comment on a DAR.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jacoby. I would say, just to emphasize the point, Councilman Miniger, if there was something you were concerned about, I'm always here to answer your question. Okay. Okay. I wanted to follow up on the Tatlock Playground question. Councilman Miniger, actually, Michael, the 250. So I'm versus. So I don't want to get this wrong, but yeah, thank you.
So there was a request for $500,000 for Upper Tatlock Playground. We reduced it. We did something similar to what we did with Maybe. We split it over 2 years to fund. Not to say that was going to be the entire amount that they believe is an estimated cost for the total project. There's grants that we pursue. There are other things. So I think that's the thought. That's why we split it in half. If there's a greater number out there, then monies either have to be through grants or additional funds have to be allocated in the capital budget. That's the answer I have.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Are there any other council comments?
Through you, Council President.
Yep. Councilman Boyer.
I just wanted to address the resident at 118 Orchard. If you can give me a call, I mean, every safety meeting we deal with at least 20, 25, parking issues, traffic issues, things dealing with, stop signs, overnight parking. I mean, it's something that we do on a regular basis. If we could holistically, take care of the whole city, that would be great. I don't know if that would be feasible, but please reach out to me, give me a call. We are eager to look at solutions, especially for traffic issues. And in the event that nothing happens on Bryant Parkway, but at least we could work to mitigate your issues on Orchard. I used to live on Orchard and Yale, so I'm very familiar with the area and the cut-throughs that happen as well. So if you can reach out, I'd appreciate that. The other thing is the no parking enforcement after 5 p.m. We'll definitely look into that issue. I know that's been something that has come up a lot, and we've talked about that in our safety meeting as well. And I had a couple of remedies for that, and I'm still working with the chief on those stickers, So, but I think that brings up a good point too, which is needing more police, right? So, you can enact any type of speed limits. You can decrease it by 5 miles an hour. You can put up any no parking signs that you want. If you don't have enforcement, then nothing's going to happen. So this is another indication of why the city actually needs more officers, in addition to the uptick in crime that we've already seen. So I just wanted to make those 2 points, Council President. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Boyer. Actually, and I just connected the two of you through the city email, so you're already connected.
Thank you.
Councilman Vartan?
I'm thinking about, so there was a specific yes or no question asked there about whether or not we're reconsidering the Bryant Parkway one-way. And I would just want to go on record as early as possible to say I do not think that's a good idea unless we have some extremely compelling traffic evidence or something that it's extremely detrimental to the traffic flow. The only feedback I have heard has been extremely positive from residents in the neighborhood about that one-way being there. And again, just a reminder that this was about speed. Cars were going very fast. It was about the quantity of cars, which is over 3,000 a day, and it was about safety, both of people driving and people walking by the park. So I think we need to keep that there and evaluate, whether we really have a detrimental problem with much more time. So that's my position on that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. We're going to move on to.
Sorry, I have some comments.
Sure. Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I just wanted to address a couple of the comments. Number one, I just want to make sure that we're very clear in regards to any development that we would provide in the city, and that it would not ever be specifically for Summit residents. Any development, we have a responsibility and a requirement to affirmatively market all of those units. So I just wanted to educate the public. If you have any questions, all of the information is on our website about how we affirmatively market any units, in case there is any confusion over that. Mrs. Gagliano, you're number one on my radar screen, and I will tell you that Mr. Pulowski sent some very compassionate emails this weekend on your behalf. I think Mr. Rogers and we all got them, and we are listening. You're our priority, and I drove by the other day, and I'm sorry that you're living in these conditions, and we'll make it right as far as it's in our budget, and we'll fix everything we need to do. Regarding Orchard and Bryant Parkway, I certainly wished we would have had taken a little more time to look at the outlying streets, and I'd like to look at that again. I agree with Greg that we have to take a balanced approach towards this, but I have to see both sides and see that data. I'll look at those traffic study that was done, and when it was done the last time, I forget the exact dates, but I would like to take another look at that data. Resident Michelle Camelson, I actually have to agree. I struggle with not fully funding some of these playgrounds. And when I look at maybe playground, I think it's taken a long time. I think it's a good point. I think it's something that we should think about going forward. A lot of these playgrounds they're costing millions of dollars. And when we look at, $250 here, $250 there, it's something that I've struggled with since I started council. I think we should talk about it. I'm not saying that either one of us is right, but I think it's a really valid point. Maybe we should commit to a smaller project that we can fund sooner. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I appreciate the comment, and thank you. The last comment that I wanted to make was, I'm going to comment about our planning board meeting last week, but we approved through a consistency review the turf at Lower Tatlock. And if you watch that meeting, you will look very specifically at how we held our Board of Ed accountable. Is there conduit? Well, maybe there's conduit for low voltage lighting. No, what exactly specifically conduit is there going to be? We actually put specific conditions in the resolution at the end of the meeting, saying that if there were to ever be lighting, the residents within 200 yards would have to be noticed. That's that's almost unheard of. So you coming to our council meetings, it's resonating in our planning board meetings. We set 7 or 8 conditions specifically around lighting, stormwater management. Now, this is a consistency review, so they aren't required, but we sent a very strong message at the planning board last week. And then regarding Maple Street, I would suggest that you take a look at City Administrator Rogers' comments at that meeting. saying that he wants to make it very clear. He didn't support it. He wouldn't recommend this council even consider it. And then furthermore, when our city engineer simply could not sign the street closure from New Jersey Department of Transportation. It is very specifically clear on our guidance in that meeting and our recommendation from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to recognize Tara. I am so sorry. I did not even realize, I thought we were moving along in a great place, so my apologies. Your kids have.
Ma'am, you can't talk to the audience.
So, all right. Affirmative marketing, I just wanted to make sure that you were talking about when you build affordable housing, that we have to pull from a region, right? Okay.
Sorry, it wasn't clear.
Yep, no, that's okay. So I just want to make clear what affirmative marketing is that if you build affordable housing, that means that individuals from all in a region, which is Essex, Morris, Union, and I believe Somerset, Mr. Rogers? Region 2, okay. And so when you, anybody in that region can go on, they fill out paperwork to try to get into your affordable housing, and then it's not necessarily in line, you're the first one in line, you actually get pulled by a lottery. So in terms of affordable housing, it's uncontrollable who actually goes in there. It's just, you get on a list, you come from a region, and you get pulled through a lottery. So just wanted to make sure that that's what you were.
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
all right, because not everybody knows the
I'm
terminology.
sorry, I just.
That's okay. Maple Street, just to confirm, we did not, Mr. Rogers, we did not get a permit, correct? Previously for Maple Street, just because it got brought up.
Please be specific of what you're asking.
Previously, when we were doing Maple Street was closed.
Back in 2022. are we talking about?
2022.
Okay.
Did
No.
we get a permit?
No, we did not get approval from DOT.
Thank you. That's just, I need to make that clear. Thank you. And is there any stance?
Can we go back to that for just 1 second, please? Listen, so, yeah.
Wait, I'm
Listen,
sorry.
So,
No.
Maple
Hold
Street.
on, I'm not finished.
Okay,
We will come back to you.
sure.
And just to be clear, Mr. Rogers, what is your what is your opinion on Maple Street for 2024?
I'm not going to reread.
I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Very clearly, I do not recommend to this council that we close Maple Street for the many reasons I stated. There's problems with property owners, retailers that have to be considered. There are a number of things, and quite frankly, all the work that the city engineer laid out of what we'd have to do to properly comply with the law cannot be done this year. So I'm recommending that, the topic again continues to be as we go into April now, and it's not going to get us to change our position, at least internally. So Council President, with all due respect, the topic keeps coming up. My position hasn't changed, nor has it changed for the city engineer.
Okay. Councilman Vartan.
Yeah, I completely respect that position, and I think that that's great, but council runs the city, right? Michael does not set the strategic direction for the city. Council and the mayor do that, right? So we can very easily have said, getting Maple Street closed is a priority for us, and directed city staff to tell us how they would go about getting that done. It wasn't that it can't be done, it's that it wasn't prioritized by this council. That's the difference that we're talking about here. It made the city a destination. It was great for business. All the surveys that we have overwhelming support for it. 80 out of the 90 emails that we got are supportive of it. We just need to be clear with the community what we're doing up here, right? This is not us saying it can't be done. That's hiding behind city staff. We should not do that. We should just be upfront with the community. If we don't want to get it done, we should just be clear and upfront with our position. So anyway, I've been upfront with my position. That is, I think it should be closed seasonally because it was excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Hamlet, and then.
You know, what I will say is, I'd love to share the CAPS agenda with all of you. That's the committee that basically, the largest committee that has all the infrastructure. It's Councilman Vartan and myself. We turned that into a 6 or 7 page document. And the reason it's 6 or 7 pages is because we have that much going on in the city. We have residents calling us at all hours of the day, and they are our priority. Their houses are flooding, they have parking concerns, they have safety concerns. That is the number one priority for me as a council member. I can't speak for anybody else up here. When my city engineer says he cannot sign off on the paperwork, and my city administrator, who's in charge of the staff, who's managing all of these problems, it becomes very specifically clear that if it was legal and we could do it and it didn't take up a ton of staff resources, it would be a priority. But that is not the case. And quite honestly, Councilman Vartan, we have way too much work to do within committee that is not being addressed right now.
Okay, Councilman Boyer.
Through you, Council President. First, real quick, no one's hiding behind anybody. Say and do whatever I feel. So I just want to point that out. If you're, speak for yourself, right? Don't paint a broad brush. The other thing is, I just want to flip back to Tara, and I apologize because I had a note here, and Councilman Pulaski has been sending out emails all the time, and he's been on top of it, and I want to point a question to Administrator Rogers. Do you have some type of timeline where we could provide some type of assistance to Tara? She's been dealing with this for several years now. Is there a rush that we can put on it? I know that we just had the budget come out, but is there anything that we can do that it won't take until September to fix her property?
It comes down to a pure funding issue, and we don't have the sufficient funds to allocate towards that project. We have to fund it. We have to get through the budget process. We have to fund it through a bond authorization, which follows the budget. If there's any way to expedite this, it will run parallel tracks to bid the project and time it with when we have available funds. We will act as quickly as we can. I can't give you a date specific on it at this time.
Administrator Rogers, is there some type of funding that we put away? I mean, not necessarily emergency funding, but some type of funding that we have in our coffers that we can replace once the budget comes out, where we can.
John?
Once the budget comes out, that we can replace.
It comes down to approval of the budget, and then we have to still go out to bid. So that's a process. I will confer with the city engineer on it. If there's any way we can expedite this, we will.
Okay, because I'm thinking that maybe perhaps there's some type of emergency funding that this council can approve or something like that.
It doesn't rise to that. It's just a question of how we can get this out to bid and what ultimately comes back, because we don't know what that's going to come back as, and then we will have to evaluate funding at that point.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Miniger.
Thank you, Council President. So a question about Maple Street. I know there's an issue with the amount of time commitment on the DCS staff. I wanted to ask if we could prioritize this for next year. I know we've missed this year. It just seems like an entire year ahead of time would be a really good way to approach something that we have limited staff resources on. And if that's not possible, then we can eliminate the congestion of work required by staff as one of the reasons that we're not doing Maple Street. That's my main request. I think we should consider it for next year.
Okay. I just want to say I'm going to kick it back to Councilwoman Hamlick. She's chair of CAP. But we will be starting our master plan process. So that will be the whole placemaking planning process will be a part of that.
And that's what I was going to say, Council President, thank you. Councilman Miniger. Michael, I believe you've already directed Tom Behrens to look at some basic placemaking. I don't want to speak for you, but specifically, we really are talking about this as a placemaking opportunity. And it may not be Maple Street. It may be a different street, right? I don't know.
Exactly. I think it's a broader look on. You're talking about a street closure. It shouldn't be taken lightly. It was absolutely necessary during the pandemic. It was a great thing. Like anybody who knows me and how long I've been working here and the projects I have proposed over the years, I'm fully supportive of ideas like this. Maple Street, given all of what we heard from the public, I know there's support, but there's opposition. I think the council has to consider that. And then there's things that we have to follow from engineering, it's the statute, it's what we have to abide by. And the city engineer, there's time, there's financial resources. Yes, is it something we can look at for next year? I don't think it's just Maple. I think you look at it as a whole and where a closure would make sense, because it's not just about closing a street for 4 restaurants. It's about where you're going to set up a place for all of the city to enjoy. That's what it should be about. That's a planning process, and that's what I recommend the council consider over the next year if you're going to do that.
Thank you. I know the public would love to hear a timeline on all of this, even if it's stretched out for a year, just to hear an update periodically on how the placemaking is happening, when they've decided, when this group has decided what it could possibly be, what location. Just to hear an update on that periodically would be very important.
It's not cheap to go through that exercise, so that is a whole other funding thing, which really is going to come next year because it's not in this year's budget.
Council President. What are the opportunities to put some tables at like the Village Green, you know, in a temporary fashion, or where outside of Marigolds? Is that something that our committee could look into, just to, I mean, I'm sure we have a lot of space on the green. Would that we can deliver food there? Would that be something that people would be interested in? I guess that would be my question that I can start asking residents.
That I can't answer. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'd like to move on. Is there any other comments before I move on? Okay, great. Let me just open this up again. All right. So we are going to go on to, we're going to close that part of our portion of our meeting.
Council President, were you going to talk about the protection ordinance, or are you going to do that later? Okay, I thought you were going to have the chief.
Well, there's not really, I mean, there's not really an update other than so the resident, well, I'll just say it, the resident protection ordinance, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and the arrest that happened and the summons that was given out, and I thought the chief was going to talk about that. And
okay. So, yeah, we could do that, but that's council comments, although, do you want the chief to just say something on the resident protection? Okay, go ahead, Councilman.
I'm sorry, I thought it was going to happen first instead of last.
Well, yeah, it's not on the agenda. It's not on the agenda, so I won't bring him up, but if you just want to say 30 seconds, go ahead.
No, I mean, we could.
Okay, oh, council comments, okay.
That's fine.
All right. Okay, ordinances for hearing.
Ordinance 24-3310, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-8.7, parking prohibited at all times on certain streets.
Okay, Councilman Boyer.
Council President, this is ordinance ID number 243310, prohibiting parking on Blackburn Road. This ordinance formally amends Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-8.7, parking prohibited at all times, to prohibit the parking on the east side of Blackburn Road between Prospect Street and Locust Avenue. Specifically, no person shall park a vehicle at any time upon any of the following described streets or parts of streets. Name of street side location is Blackburn Road East to a point 210 feet north of Prospect Street. It's not the entire street. I move to open this ordinance for final hearing.
And
second.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. All right, the hearing is open. Council comments?
Yeah. Thank you, Council President. So this is all wrapped up with the four-way stop that's there on the corner, which began with Chief Weck back in 2019. I was Chair of Safety, and he identified that as an area that could use a four-way stop. So I don't remember further parking restrictions ever being part of the discussions with him at that time. But just in literally like the last day, I got a couple questions from residents that I do think are worth asking. So I do apologize for not reaching out earlier. But number one is, what's the history of this request? Like, did it come from a specific resident? Did it come from the police department? Did it come from council? And then second is, beyond just it being in the agenda, did we do any additional notification to residents in the area? And then my third thing is less of a question, which is, shouldn't we be a little bit worried that this is precedent setting, and that lots of people have visibility issues around their driveway, and aren't we going to just be doing parking restrictions on every street around town, for the next however many agendas? So anyway, those are my 3 things.
Council President? So my understanding is that the lieutenant went out, our engineer went out, they looked at the site, and this particular resident brought this up because he has a special needs child, and the visibility is very, very poor. And they all agreed that this is the right approach to take. Do you?
Well,
I can probably help.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
You want?
Go ahead, Councilman.
This started back in 2023, and I don't want to correct you because you're on the right track as far as the history, but there is a resident at 77 Prospect who sent an email in December of 2023. I think that was the first email. Yes.
Sorry, there might have been several.
That's okay. So there was a few probably before Councilman Boyer's tenure, but this resident had expressed some concerns that as he was pulling out of his driveway, he could not see because of all the cars that were parked 50 feet from the stop sign to his driveway. So we have spent extensive time, Chief Zagorski and his team, as well as our city engineer. I'm 99% sure we did notify the residents because I remember seeing an email. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But there is a very specific safety concern, and it is for that resident who is backing out. And Councilman Vartan, it actually, I don't believe it really has too much to do with the four-way stop that I was opposed to, because I was afraid that all of the traffic was going to be held up. So that's actually not the issue. It's really the overload of cars from Oak Knoll that are parking within that specific. So much to my dismay, it had nothing really to do with the four-way stop. It's just sort of more traffic from Oak Knoll, and we've actually, I forget, Chief, if we've engaged Oak Knoll, but aren't there some discussions, Councilman Boyer, regarding Oak Knoll and freeing up that parking lot, that house, some spaces in that house that houses the Oak Knoll parking? So that's going to eliminate, there's a house that houses Oak Knoll staff. And there is a resolution out there, I believe, that they could only park 2 or 3 cars there. We're looking at amending that resolution to put more cars on that property as to alleviate more of those concerns. Do you remember that, Andy?
Yeah, it's through parking.
Through parking, right.
It's in progress.
Yeah, okay. Sorry,
Okay.
I know it's a roundabout way.
Yeah, okay.
Just to correct the record, and I don't know if I misspoke, but that resident, there was a special needs, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I wanted to make sure that I had that right.
I don't want to get into too many specific
I
details, but
understand, but
that issue really arose from the four-way stop. So that
Okay.
issue was the bus picked the child up from the front.
Yes.
And so that was actually impacting the front of the property. The bus there'd be 4 cars parked, and then the bus would have nowhere to stop, so the child couldn't get onto the bus, and that's one of the reasons why I was opposed to the four-way stop. This situation is on the other side of the property and is caused because of the Oak Knoll traffic. So it's a very complicated web.
Yep.
And actually, Ralph called me last week. Unfortunately, his mother just died, so I just want to say a note of condolences to Ralph. And what I told him is, he said, do you think there's going to be a ton of residents that come up and complain? And I said, I haven't heard anything, but I do know there's a lot of support as far as, the safety of pulling out of your driveway. And he said that the no parking signs have made a huge difference. So I thank the staff for your continued engagement on that.
So there's temporary no parking up there now?
There was,
Okay.
yes, just because it was such
Okay.
a safety hazard, yes.
Yep, okay.
And just, the no parking is only in front of his house, if I understand that correctly. It's so close to the stop sign that it's only his yard. It's not,
Okay.
it's not any other
Because
neighbors.
there's built in to a stop sign, what is it, 50 feet of no parking
Right.
with a stop sign?
And the
Right.
4 stop signs now.
And then, okay, so then this is an additional
Now, Councilman Vartan, I don't know if initially the no parking signs extended further, because I had a conversation with former Chief Weck about the complaints that we were extending it to Locust.
Okay.
And I kind of agreed, at the end of the day, I think we all agreed that it was, beyond that would have not made sense, but the first 200 feet made sense.
Okay.
So.
All right. Sounds good.
I think everybody's a winner in this one, but if anybody wants to complain, just let us know.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Those are my things.
Okay. And I will say the stop sign, it has made the area actually really much safer. So my 17-year-old, because I was a critic, I didn't really want to block the driveway, but I will tell you, Zach came home one day and said, it's so much easier to pull out on Prospect Street and Blackburn Road. So I think it's important that when we do good work, you should know it.
All right.
All right. Okay, public comments.
Council President?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
just want to mention to reiterate, Councilman Miniger, that I did get the resolution about the house that Oak Knoll currently owns that is used for administrative staff. And there is currently an ordinance where it's only allowed to use two cars. So that's something that I think that we'll talk in parking and see what we can do to help out Oak Knoll and at least their staff for parking their cars there.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay. Public comments? No? Okay. We're going to close the hearing. Madam Deputy Clerk, please read the next ordinance.
Ordinance 24-3311, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 4, General Licensing, Section 4-1, Establish General Regulations, Subsection 4-20.3, Regulating of Sidewalk Cafes, Permit Required, and Appendix A, Schedule of Fees contained in the revised general ordinances of the City of Summit.
Great. Councilman Smallwood?
This is ordinance ID number 24-331. The city code sets forth the fee structure for sidewalk cafes in two places. Appendix A, fee schedule of the city code, Chapter 4 of the city code. We recently learned that the Chapter 4 needs updating so that the two are consistent. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 4, subsection 4-20.3, fee schedule to match that of the Appendix A. I move to adopt this ordinance.
I second. Okay, the hearing is open. Council comments? Public comments? Okay, we're going to close the hearing. Ordinances for final consideration, Madam Clerk, Deputy Clerk.
Ordinance 24-3310, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7-8.7, parking prohibited at all times on certain streets.
Councilman Boyer?
Thank you, Council President. Having closed the hearing just a moment ago, I move this ordinance for final adoption.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Oh, sorry, you need a second.
Second.
Oh, I'll second it. Wait.
You have to pick one.
Only so one sorry. Wait, I'm seconding it because for Councilman Smallwood tonight. Or would you like to second it, Councilman Miniger? I don't mind. Go ahead. Andy will second.
I got it.
All right.
Stop
Moving.
fighting.
Right. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Boyer?
Yay.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
Mr. Pulowski? Mr. Smallwood?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
Council President Allen?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Deputy Madam Clerk, next ordinance, please.
Ordinance 24-3311, an ordinance amending the code, Chapter 4, General Licensing, Section 4-1, Establish General Regulations, Subsection 4-20.3, Regulating of Sidewalk Cafes, Permit Required, and Appendix A, Schedule of Fees contained in the revised general ordinances of the City of Summit.
Councilman Smallwood?
Thank you, Council President. Having just heard the debate and comments of this ordinance, I move to have this ordinance for final consideration.
Okay. I second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Boyer?
Yay.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
Mr. Pulowski? Mr. Smallwood?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
Council President Allen?
Aye. Motion carries. On to resolutions. Our finance resolutions. Councilman Miniger.
Thank you, Council President. This is number 11173, and this resolution authorizes emergency temporary appropriations for the municipal operating budget. The statutory language required in a resolution like this uses the word emergency, but this is a regular occurrence, not an emergency. These temporary appropriations are to help fund city operating expenses and payroll expenses until we have adopted our 2024 budget on what date? Tuesday, May 7th at 7:30 p.m. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second. Okay, council comments? No? Okay, public comments? No, all right. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
Mr. Pulowski? Mr. Smallwood?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
Council President Allen?
Aye, motion carries. Councilman Miniger.
Thank you, Council President. This is number 11175, and this resolution authorizes emergency temporary appropriations for the sewer utility budget. Once again, still uses the word emergency. It's a regular occurrence. This is to fund sewer utility operating expenses and payroll expenses until we've adopted that budget on May 7th. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Council comments? Public comments? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
Mr. Pulowski? Mr. Smallwood?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
Council President Allen?
Aye, motion carries. Councilman Miniger, your third.
Thank you, Council President. This is number 11174, and this resolution authorizes emergency temporary appropriations for the parking utility budget. Still emergency. It's a regular occurrence. It funds the parking utility operating expenses and payroll expenses until we've adopted the budget. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Okay. Council comments? Public comments? All right, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Boyer?
Aye.
Ms. Hamlet?
Aye.
Mr. Miniger?
Aye.
Mr. Pulowski? Mr. Smallwood?
Aye.
Mr. Vartan?
Aye.
Council President Allen?
Aye, motion carries. And Councilman Miniger, your fourth from the floor resolution, please.
Thank you, Council President. I do have this. Per closed session discussion, we are declaring a vacancy in the Finance Department, the position of Senior Payroll Clerk, effective April 15th, 2024. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Okay, council comments? No? I would like to say that we need to find this position quickly, so, all right. Public comment? All right, roll call vote, please. Or all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Capital projects, Councilwoman Hamlet.
Thank you, Council President. This is Resolution ID 11136, approval to submit a grant application for funding from the FY 2024 Local Transportation Projects Fund Grant Program and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the Springfield Avenue Improvement Project. This sidewalk is on the south side of Springfield Avenue from Kings to Pine Grove Avenue. I would like to move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Okay, council comments? Public comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Wait, what is going on here?
We're all taking each other's seconds.
I know.
It's like a fun game we're playing.
And it's not even that late. This is a really early night for us. Okay, Councilwoman Hamlet, your second.
Actually, if it's okay, Council President, Councilman Miniger is so kind to introduce this one since he did the work and vetted this
Okay.
wonderful volunteer.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Council President. This is number 11193, and this resolution per closed session discussion is to appoint a new member of the Parkline Steering Committee. That member is Mr. Phil Teachin, the resident representative on the committee. Phil lives near the Parkline, looks forward to helping with the next phase of that great project. I move to adopt this resolution.
I enthusiastically second.
Okay, council comments?
I'd just like to say thank you to Councilman Miniger for speaking to this volunteer. Some of us don't always have the time, but we trust your judgment, and a wonderful person.
Okay, public comment? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to law and labor. Councilman Smallwood, you're
Yes.
doing that, okay.
This is ID number 11188. This is regarding the vacancy in the Rent Commission. Having recently recently expanded the Rent Commission to add 2 alternate members, and having recently received an acceptable appointment from Mayor Fagan, there is an application from Eric DeZazio, who is a wonderful barista at Gregory's Coffee. And I move to adopt this resolution, making Eric DeZazio second alternate on the Rent Commission.
And I second. Council comments? I want to welcome Eric to this board. Public comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Safety and Health, Councilman Boyer.
Thank you, Council President. This is ID number 1178. This resolution amends professional services agreement in excess of $17,500 for the new firehouse headquarters architectural design services, Phase 4. Additional fees not to exceed $80,359.12. This is for project management fees. I move to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Perfect. Council comments?
Okay. Sorry, I have a couple on this one. I called Chief Evers today. I do have some concerns. I spoke with the chief today about the substantial completion date for the firehouse, and I don't know if the chief might be able to come up and just say a few words, but my questions, I guess, Chief, which we talked about, it sounds as though the substantial completion date would be at the end of May. My concerns, or I guess my one question to you is how much are we withholding from Brahma within each billing period? And I believe the number is 2%. My question regarding this is, do we need to withhold more, or do we need to, because I'm afraid, obviously, the city should not be held accountable for this project going over the time, right? That's specifically Brahma's responsibility. So the architect acts as the GC, obviously, for those of you who don't know that, correct?
Council President, do you mind? Because we had conversations in committee about this, and maybe I can.
Nope. Just let her finish her questions.
Oh,
and then,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right.
So my questions were just, and Councilman Boyer, I can direct them to you as well. My questions are really specifically, should we be withholding more? And what happens after June if this project goes 3 to 4 months longer? And what contingencies have we put in place?
Okay, to Council President. So you can't really withhold, when you go to the bid, there's a pay application agreement with the contractor. As long as they meet those milestones, we continue to pay those pay applications. Every time we do a pay application, we do withhold 2% of that money for end of the project, make it completed properly. So we do have a final payment due. So at the end of the project, upon our satisfaction and completion, that final payment's due, as far as any money that's been held to the pay applications. At that time, that's the time we would go after any kind of money that's owed to the city. But we can't just hold money for them. As long as they're meeting the intent of the pay applications right now, that makes the project continue, that makes it closer to completion. And then during the time and place for that, right now, it's not really the time to hold anything back. I don't think we can legally wise, but there is the time at the end of the project where we can talk about what the city is. We are taking documentation on what extra expenses the city's incurring, and at some time we'll approach Brahma. They haven't put on notice. They are going to exercise. There are some clauses in the contract that say for liquidated damages that we put them on notice that we're going to exercise that at the end of the project. Sorry, the second question was, Ms. Helmut?
I guess another question I have, so this is for Phase 4, and the initial amount for Phase 4 was it 300,000 for Phase 4?
No, there's
for this specific
80,359.
But that's what we're asking for extra. But the Phase 4 initial contract with this architect was. It was
around $300,000.
Around $300,000.
Roughly, I can go back and look at it.
And then
the original contract.
So we gave them another $120,000 last June.
Yeah.
Right. So now this is 80. So I guess my question to the smart finance people is that over the threshold of what would normally be allowed, or is that fine? Because when I look at it from a big number,
I don't think there is a allowable threshold. As long as the city, as long as the council approves the extension of the services.
That's not over a threshold.
Okay.
There's no threshold.
There's a change orders that exceed 20% of a bid threshold.
Yeah.
These are professional services, and these are frankly the people that are holding Brahma accountable to make sure it gets done timely. Or not timely, more, not as delayed as it's been. So, I mean, there are some issues with the pandemic and supply chain, but we do have clauses in the contract, and we can discuss your retainage. You've been retaining 2% of every payment, correct?
That's correct, yep.
Yeah, so we do have retainage that we can then look at when we go after them for delay claims.
But 2% of 80,000 isn't very much.
No, 2% of
I mean,
the
2% of,
whole
2% of.
contract.
The entire contract.
The entire contract.
Entire contract.
Right,
It's
but in
broken down
this,
the application,
but in this
yeah.
specific, it would be 2% of 80,000.
But I think the total contract is 16 million?
Well, their contract is 15, yeah. Our
Yeah.
budget's 16 million. Their contract award amount was 15,
But aren't we
52,
paying
around
two
there.
separate, aren't we paying two separate entities? We're paying Brahma and we're paying Wilcox.
But they're two separate, yeah, they're two separate.
So that's my question. They're two separate, we're retaining, we're comparing apples to oranges, in my opinion. We're withholding.
I just want to understand
Just
the apple and the orange.
I know, it's been a late night. I just.
So there's difference between.
So the withholding of the 15 million, 2% of the 15
Right.
million paid to Brahma
Mhm.
is a roughly $300,000
Mhm.
withholding. So you withhold those funds to true up things in the city's favor. For example, if the delays cause us to incur more professional expenses with the Wilcox, the architect, that would be something that we could use to offset. There's also a
Okay.
liquidated damage clause in the contract that if they go beyond a certain date for substantial completion, we can get fees for that as well.
Okay.
And just to clarify, the architect firm is not the general contractor. So
Correct.
They're two different.
Two different
entities.
firms.
They're,
LeMay
LeMay.
is our architect and our project manager.
That's what I mean, sorry, LeMay,
That's
that's what I meant, sorry.
distinction. And the
Yeah.
contractor is Brahma, and that's a
Right.
difference.
So LeMay is the architect and. what is
Project
that?
management are the
manager.
costs
Yeah.
that we're incurring
Right.
additionally
They're
because
separate
of this
from the-
delay.
Right.
So this is
Sorry.
what's happening.
Yep, sorry, I
It's not
misspoke.
the
Yep.
architectural related.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the other question you asked about, if it goes, just say it goes beyond June,
Mhm.
there is a set fee that product management charges per month. So if we did go beyond, say, end of May, then we would have to, the monthly charge, the product management team charges us. So that would just be extended, and at some point, we come back up from the council and do the same thing we're doing tonight. But
Okay.
we don't envision that, but there is a monthly schedule fee set up, going beyond the scope of the contract with LeMay and Wilcox.
This is due to the delay, and
Yeah.
we will hold the contractor responsible for these additional costs.
Yeah. We are
Yes.
keeping track
Is
of
that-
all the expenses out of pocket we're incurring. At some point, when our group meets and discusses strategy-wise, like I say, Brahma hasn't put on notice, so they're well aware of it. And at some point, we'll, make sure that we exercise that.
We put them on notice
Multiple
two
times,
years
multiple
ago.
years ago.
Months
Yeah,
ago.
but
Years.
I communicate with their council.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we meet every week, every 2 weeks formally, and it's always it's on our agenda, liquidated damage clause, so they're well aware of it, so.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chief.
Councilman Boyer, do you
No,
have
I was
anything
just
else?
gonna, I was just gonna make the point that this is not the project manager's, delay. It's not their
It's
fault.
not at all, no.
They're providing a service and,
Yep.
we have to pay them.
And it's very beneficial to keep them going, because they're the ones that keep the project going, keep the construction company accountable for their actions and their scheduling and money spent, so that kind of thing, so.
And I agree. I just wanted to make sure that Brahma's responsible for paying them if
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
overrunning
End
the
of the day,
project.
it's on
Yeah.
Brahma, they're the contractors, we awarded the bid to Brahma, and like I
Yeah.
said, we're keeping track of everything, so we'll make sure that we stay on top of it, the city's best interest.
Thank you, Chief.
Great, thank you.
Any other council comments? No? Okay, public comment? Thank you, Chief. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Councilman Boyer, your second
Thank
resolution.
you, Council President. This is ID number 11176, and this is a resolution to declare vacancies in the fire department and fill those vacancies with 2 probationary firefighters. As per closed session, I move this to resolution. Just really quickly, I just want to also just announce that there were 2 firefighters who are retiring, 26-year veteran Gabe Ianella and firefighter Loon Mullen, a 29-year veteran of the Summit Fire Department. And these are the positions that we are replacing. And I just want to wish them both good luck in their retirement.
I second.
Excellent. Okay, council comments? 26 and 29 years. That's incredible. Yeah. Yeah. It's a testament to the environment that you guys have created at the fire department. So thank you for your service and everyone for their service. Okay. Public comments? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. At this time, we're going to vote on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Stephanie? Great. Does anyone want to discuss any resolutions? Pull anything out?
Very quickly, Council President, just
Absolutely.
number one there, 10953.
Mhm.
The fees for operating and maintaining the sanitary sewer system. So the joint meeting is one of the oldest examples of shared services in the state. And despite significant increases this year, this is still an extremely, extremely competitive rate for the sewer fee. So I just want to point that out. Thank city staff. Thanks, Aaron. Just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? All right. Public comment? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And on to council comments. Anybody? Council comments?
Through you, Council President.
Sure.
Just real quick.
Council Minister.
I actually appreciate not bundling the whole agenda, because I know it's within a reasonable time.
Yeah.
Even on those late days, this kind of discussion on these things is really important to get the idea of like how much we're spending on things, that kind of discussion. It's very, very valuable, so I like to see that, for sure.
Good. Okay.
I just want to give a quick update. I know I've spoken a lot tonight, but very quick, as the planning board liaison, I just wanted to give a quick update from the planning board. I did some of it in public comments. The planning board discussed and adopted the rules for the board's operation. We spent the first 3 months really scrutinizing the board rules and making them much more specific. Kudos to everyone on the planning board for spending so much time discussing the importance of what we call conditions on applications and how to enforce them. Overall, the rules were adopted with the proposed changes. Also, every year, the zoning board sends the planning board reviews of matters that have come before them that suggest the DRO might need updating or demonstrating problems that aren't working. The planning board chair recommended we establish a DRO revision committee to solicit input from stakeholders and make recommendations for updates to the DRO. The 3 members of this committee are Jennifer Alvarez, Steve Spur, and Paul Formicelli. The committee will provide recommendations to the council in the coming months, and this is specifically important because we're going to be taking a lot of Krista Anderson's knowledge and really fine-tuning that DRO, which is going to be crucial with her leaving the city. Third, Burgess and Associates, as well as our planning attorney, provided an update at that meeting. It's on YouTube for the 4th round of affordable housing. And then finally, I provided in my council comments the turf project that was approved through a consistency review. So if you'd like to see the comments and the conditions that we put on the Board of Ed that were very specific to stormwater management for the residents in there, trees, fencing, and overall lighting. It was a very important meeting, so I urge all of you to watch it. I think that is all I have, but thank you. Thank you for all the city staff.
Okay, great. Council comments?
Council President? In just 12 weeks since this governing body passed an ordinance that we've already seen in action with the issuance of the first summons for a violation, the Resident Protection Ordinance demonstrates the effectiveness of the proactive governance and the commitment to our administration to enforce measures that prioritize the safety and security of our residents. The alarming surge in property crimes over the past few years, with motor vehicle thefts up by 117% and residential burglaries up by 126%, underscores the urgency of our actions. Furthermore, our commitment to enhancing safety doesn't end here. As evidenced by our budget allocation, this council is dedicated to making substantial investments in bolstering the security measures of our residents. I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to Mayor Fagan and the Council President Allen and Councilman Pawlowski, whose leadership and support have been instrumental in driving these initiatives forward. Additionally, I want to thank our residents and the police chief and the Summit Police Department for their steadfast backing of these efforts to combat crime. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
I just want to thank Michael for the presentation tonight, and also Councilman Miniger as well as Councilwoman Hamlet. I know putting together that budget over the last 3 months has been extraordinary, and it's a lot of work. So thank you very much for all your time, and look forward to the hearing on May 7th.
Thank you for staying awake.
Excellent. Okay. Is there anybody else? Councilman Vartan?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
All right, then can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.